there we go. Shoot.
Oh, I see a thing that says we're live.
Okay, guys, I'm just checking. I always hate this, but I just love to be sure. I'm just going to quickly check to make sure that we are streaming into the group. Yes, we are. You know me. I just love to double and triple check everything, cross T's, dot I's. You know how it's going. Okay, guys. So today I'm super excited. We have Deb Lauren on. And now the reason I wanted to bring Lauren on is because, you know, with everything going on right now with COVID and with all the self-isolation stuff, there is a lot of change happening, and navigating change can bring on a ton of fear for so many people. And I think we're all feeling it to a certain degree in some aspects or some areas of our life. And so, you know, a lot of that can end up causing us to play small or to postpone and put off our goals and things that we really, really value and that we want to achieve, and, you know, questioning our worth. And then it makes us walk this sort of safe path, which, to be truthful and honest, doesn't always serve us. And so Deb is here to kind of help us understand what's going on in terms of like our brain and what we're feeling and why this happens. And more importantly, give us the tools that we need to help navigate this in a way so that we can come out of this feeling more abundant, more empowered, and more in our worth than ever before. And so, I mean, as always, you guys know, I suck at doing introductions. So, and this woman deserves the most ultimate one. So Deb, why don't you kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. As always, I love our chats on and offline. So it's just really cool to be a part of this group. So thank you. I really kind of self-identify as a foundational life coach. So I popped that foundational in the beginning to really just kind of emphasize that I teach foundational skills. Like if you think of a tree and the foundation of the roots below it, or a house and the foundation of all of the cement and everything that kind of happens underneath the tip of the iceberg, that's where I really thrive. And so I really try to teach people the life skills and the self-care skills and the mindset management that really goes below the surface, that helps you better manage your mind and better manage your triggers and the change and the uncertainty that always comes, right? It's just a part of life. And especially at a time now where, as a collective, we're going through this uncertainty, it's even more important than ever. And so I do that through a combination of science, particularly neuroscience, and spirituality. So I'm a certified yoga nidra meditation instructor, and I do a lot of work with what's called neuroplasticity, really teaching people how to move brain fuel from your stress response all the way to what's called like your rest and digest in your prefrontal cortex. And we'll get into that.
Which I know I geek out all the time, every single time that we talk, because this is where I love, like, this is where I get juicy. Like, I really love this stuff. So I'm so excited to dive in. Okay. So let's talk about, you know, I want to dive into fear. So why do fears come up in the first place? Like, what purpose do they serve?
Yes. So anytime you are in any position where you've got something new in front of you, be that uncertainty, change, you have a new job, or you just lost your job, or you want to try something new. I mean, it can be a spider that you're scared of, like anything that's new that you don't have this kind of previous narrative for. Your body is going to refer to its limbic brain, which is your stress response. And that's what I'm saying. It can be anywhere from like a little bit of tingly nerves to like full on freaking out and going into like a depression or an anxiety state. And so it's the most efficient way for your body to assess something new. That's fight, flight, freeze. Have you guys heard of like that standard stress response? So that's using your limbic region of your brain. And so what it does is it sends signals to your body, and it's either going to use fear or novelty. But novelty is like more for like the cool stuff that's new and different, and you can really kind of imprint a memory. But fear is probably the fastest way that your brain and your body can like communicate in order to teach it how to feel. And so when you're up against, you know, less money in your bank account, or you want to change jobs, or you want to run a marathon but you're scared, or you like broke up with a boyfriend, or, you know, any of those new scenarios, or you want to lose weight but you're afraid of whatever comes with that, of how you can't adjust to the new lifestyle, you can't afford the food, or, you know, all those random fears that come into place. Your body and your mind are communicating, and they're saying, okay, the fastest way that we can give you an opinion and tell you what to do is to make you afraid. And it's really messed up, but it's the most efficient way, because your body can't, or your brain can't process more than about 2,000 bits of awareness at the same time. But we have about 400 billion bits of information coming at us at a time. So that's 1/2 of 1/1,000,000%.
That's insane.
Yeah, like 2,000 out of 400 billion is all we can handle with our conscious mind. And so when the limbic system is using fear to kind of help us navigate, it's to basically say, we can't afford to have this conversation in that 2,000 bits, so we're just going to make it for you. So we're going to make you afraid of that, so you don't even have to have a conversation.
Which, like, it comes at the cost of so many things. So like, what are we risking then? Like, what potentially, like, what do you see, like, you know, with everything going on right now, especially with COVID, like, what are you seeing a lot of people risk based on the fact that fear is then taking, because it's just rampant right now. Rampant.
And it's so efficient, because it's like fear is just as efficient as breathing and as like having to pee. Like, you don't tell yourself breathe or take a step, or, you know, like, you just do it. When something comes at your face, you duck, but you didn't tell yourself to, you just did it. These are all subconscious thoughts, and that's kind of the same place where your fear resides. And so because it's automatic, because it's totally efficient and it's happening without you knowing it, you're risking so much of this kind of like FOMO, right? Like, you're not going to be able to actualize your desires at all. You're not going to be able to get out of your comfort zone at all, right? It's not safe. It's not predictable. It's not familiar. You don't have proof of the path. And so if anything you want is out of your comfort zone, forget it. Fear is absolutely way stronger than any of your conscious thoughts. And there's a whole stat where 85% of your brain is your subconscious thought patterns. So only 50%.
So you can't even control it.
I know. It's just like crazy, but here's the thing. You can, but it's just the automatic thought process is in that 85%, and it's typically wired for that limbic thought process, right? For that protection, all of that. So when you say, I don't want to date that guy because I've been hurt already 5 times and I don't want to get hurt again, that's your rationalization based on thousands of subconscious thoughts that are saying protect, protect, protect.
And I mean, it happens to women all the time. I mean, just because, like, obviously, like, I'm just going to use weight loss because, like, this is a weight loss group and everything. It happens to women so many times. Like, you fail, like, you know, if you fail 1 or 2 diets, then you're less like, I went through it myself, where you're less likely to want to do something again. It's the same thing with a guy, because I'm going to get hurt, or I'm going to fail, or whatever.
Yeah. Or I'm going to put all of this money in, and I'm going to put all of this effort, and I'm going to sacrifice all my favorite foods, right? And then it doesn't work. And now I'm scared of that. I'm scared of all that effort, you know, and that fear of your effort not getting you a result, it's the fear that's not getting you the result.
It's not fear.
Fear. It's not the actual behavior. It's the interpretation of all of that. And so it's like it's so funny. I use this a lot, and now I'm just reading Glennon Doyle's Untamed book, and she has like a whole chapter on this.
The best book, right? The best book of 2020.
I love it. I haven't finished it, but I don't want to give anything too much away, but I knew this before I read it, so it's fair game. You have to be willing to like break up with yourself in order to actualize into whoever it is on the other side of that fear. right? And it's like, that's exactly what is at risk. Like, so you asked that in the beginning, what's at risk? You don't get to be that person. You don't get to grow. You don't get to actualize. You don't get to do any of that because your fear is keeping you hostage.
It's the thing that's actually keeping you stuck. It's not the diet, like it's not the guy, it's not the diet, it's not the thing, it's you, it's your fear that's holding
your
you
thought. Yeah, it's your thoughts.
Okay, so
yeah.
why is it then, I mean, and maybe we already covered this, but why is it then so hard to override our fear? Like why, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so we'll go a little bit more. So we have this kind of 85-15 differential, right? So your subconscious is automatic programmed. That's where your doubts, those narratives, past experiences, religious beliefs, parental influence, school, peers, all of that gets stored in your subconscious. And you can just access it really efficiently. The 15% is the thoughts that you know about. That's what you can control. And that's where your desires are, right? That's where your goals are. That's where New Year's resolutions are, in your conscious thought. So you have what's called neural dissonance. And it's this difference between the subconscious and the conscious. Can you even see both hands? No, you can't.
a little.
A little bit. So when your subconscious thoughts are directly conflicting with your conscious thoughts, then you can't get anywhere. And so the problem is that of those 85%, usually 70% of those are negative. All right. So you've got, it's literally, and I'll save you the math. It's 4 times heavier weighted negative to conscious thought. So for every one thought that you have that is goal-oriented and progress-oriented and motivation-oriented, you're having 4 more subconsciously that counter it. So it's really hard to get. You are
battling yourself.
You're pre-programmed. Yeah. It's all, and we don't know it's happening because it's subconscious. It's totally not our fault, right? It's like, we aren't purposely sabotaging. We're not purposely choosing the wrong thing. Our efficient brain that is literally wired to save us from saber-toothed tigers and bad weather and all of that, short-term survival, is so heavily programmed in our DNA that it's 4 times more powerful than the conscious thought that we have. And so what we have to do, and I'm going to teach you, is we have to start retraining our brain to make new neuron connections, so that it's called, when neurons fire together, they wire together. Mm-hmm. You have so many negative opinions and beliefs and assumptions that have wired together that we need to start reframing them, collecting new beliefs. And then all of a sudden, if you do it enough, repeatedly, day after day, what's called neuroplasticity, the weakened connections start to dissolve, and the stronger new beliefs start to strengthen, and you can literally change the wiring of your subconscious.
Which means that all of the powerful, supportive, loving thoughts then actually start to take over your brain, where the negative ones are actually going to start to die off.
Yes.
Which is just insane, especially because if you think of everything going on right now, like the number one thing that I hear so much from moms right now is how exhausted they are. And no wonder, like, you're at home, you're homeschooling, you're trying to, especially for moms who are trying to work, you have
all the things,
financial stress. So you have all of this stuff actually like in your face every day. And then on top of that, subconsciously, you have all these negative, like, it's just like, no wonder you're exhausted.
No wonder. I know. And sometimes it feels like I tell people that they have this level of ownership if they want to work on it. And it's like, what? This is my fault too. I have to do this now too. But I get to, right? It's like, even though it's a lot to take, that you can change your thoughts and you can do things to improve this kind of neurochemistry, it gives you control back where you didn't have any before, because you thought you were at the effect of your circumstances. You thought because you're the mom who's balancing 8,000 things that it's not in the cards for you to be less overwhelmed or to lose the weight or to make the time, right? But it has nothing to do with our circumstances, as crazy as that can sound. Mm-hmm. It's all about our interpretation of them, our thoughts about them, which drives our feeling, which drives our actions, which drives our results.
Mm-hmm.
It's all stemming from up here. And what the cool thing is, and I really want to get to talking about the solution, because obviously that's what people care about,
Mm-hmm.
but your brain has a seesaw relationship between that limbic brain and the prefrontal cortex. And so the prefrontal cortex is where your critical thinking, your patience, your compassion, your like all your high level thinking, that's where that is. So when you're like super stressed out and your kids are yelling and like you're feeling super triggered, there's no way in hell you're accessing patience, compassion, and critical thinking, right? You're not.
No, every single day.
Right. We all go there, myself included, believe me. So think about it like that. When you're in this kind of triggered limbic state, you can't access your higher, more best self qualities. It's really hard. And that's because your limbic brain has all the fuel. So you don't have anything in your prefrontal cortex. But if we can switch it, it acts like a seesaw. So the more you can bring fuel, which is blood, oxygen, and glucose, into the actual prefrontal cortex, now the limbic brain isn't fed and it won't be triggered. You won't be able to access that stress response. You'll actually get to access your creativity and your patience and your problem solving.
Which
but
is
it's
also, I mean, like, I think it's also too why so many women notice such a change when they're fueling their bodies properly. Like, you know, when you're eating right and you're taking care of yourself, like it's like the number one thing that I hear in terms of our, like in terms of the group, like for the Nourish system, like how many women within the first week are like, I'm sleeping better. I stopped drinking coffee. I'm not yelling at my kids as much. Like, and it's literally because you sort of, you're working, like, you know, we do a bunch of this work too in the program, but like you're also fueling your body to make sure that you're feeling your best.
Yeah. I like people will say like, I don't have time to self-care, or self-care is like the easiest thing to give up first because it's personal, right? And I say that with air quotes, like no one else suffers when I don't self-care, it's only me. But that's totally opposite, right? It's like, yes, the self-care is something that you physically are doing, but everybody benefits or suffers when that cup is filled or it's not. You know, it's like, do you know that vase analogy where if you like, I'll take my water bottle, like if I only have a little bit left, right? So in order to get water, I have to be, I'm gonna do it, but I have to like tip it upside down in order to get the water. And I risk it spilling, right? I risk, if it's a vase, if you have to tip it all the way over, it'll fall over and crash. But if you just keep self-caring, right? You keep filling that vase and now it's totally full and you fill and now it overflows. And if you fill from the overflow, guess what's sturdy and strong and isn't going to fall over? You know? And so it's like such a powerful thing. Like filling my cup doesn't make me selfish. It makes me damn strong, right? It makes me really sturdy. It keeps my foundation in check. And then I can give from the overflow. I can give from this really abundant, beautiful place. But when you're constantly letting it down, then you're having to go so far overboard to give. And then I went so out of my way to make 3 dinners for my family and they didn't appreciate it. You know, it's like all of that stuff happens. It matters because you had to go upside down to do it. But if you could do it from the overflow, your interpretation of it, your thoughts about it wouldn't get you into that limbic state.
Which infuriates me, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but like I hate how society gives like gold stars for moms who like give, like, you know, it's like, I'm like, this is the construct that is keeping us all stuck here instead of sort of like blooming into this incredible like woman that we want to become. Like we're taught that it's okay to like self-sacrifice and give everything and be exotic. And I'm just like, that's not how it works.
No, we think it's this badge of honor. Like if we're not busy, if we aren't doing everything for others in our free time, that somehow we're not measuring up. And I know there are certain personalities that just thrive off that and yay them, but not everybody can do that. And not everybody should do that. It's not necessarily mentally, emotionally, physically healthy to constantly be serving and not make sure that you're also serving yourself too. I think moms are the like heartbeat of families.
I say that all the time. I was just going to say, I was like, we are the heartbeat of the family, which is so interesting that you say that too, Deb, because I was going to, like, I just wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit, and I don't want to go too off topic, but like is it also fair to say too, then, that if you are sort of retraining your brain to think like this, that then you will then pass that down to your kids who will
For
then
sure.
also think like this as well?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I actually just took like a parenting course with this woman who was talking about COVID and kind of wanted to get moms together to see what was working and what wasn't. And one of her biggest pieces of advice was that whole that children learn more from what you do than what you say, that this constant awareness that we are the example is something that we often forget. I think a lot of parents get in the like, because I said so, and then parents will sacrifice what they eat but try to feed their kids healthy food, and then they get pissed when they don't eat it, and I'm like, yeah, but you're not eating it. Like we have this constant thing where we're constantly trying to like sacrifice in all these areas. We don't realize that our kids pick up on
They watch everything.
Yeah, I mean, point blank, I had such a hard time. I was a stay-at-home mom, like hardcore, until
I know you were.
I never thought I was gonna work, you guys. I never did. I just didn't grow up having this career mindset, and I didn't see myself as anything but a mother, which is a beautiful way to be. But it wasn't until like a couple years in, and I went through a huge depression because I had this very deep-seated, what was subconscious narrative that I was going to be a mom and that was it. But again, I started having goals, right? I started having aspirations. I started feeling like I needed to contribute in new ways, identify in new ways. And that neural dissonance of why isn't motherhood enough, with all of those subconscious programmed beliefs about how it should be, made it so difficult for me to function. And I went into a depression big time, like 6 months of like needing to be medicated, locking myself in the bathroom, like worried, do I need to like leave my kids for a little while to heal, like that bad. And it wasn't until I actually went on a yoga retreat and I found angel cards and meditation, yoga nidra, and all these things that helped me really see that it wasn't actually my circumstances. It was my thoughts about it. It was my neural dissonance. It was had all of these conflicting beliefs, and none of them were bad. They just weren't serving my goal. They were serving my old self. Everything you believe serves you, but it might not be serving your future. You know what I mean? Like when you think that you need to make 3 meals for your 3 kids and that you need to drive every carpool and sign up for everything in order to be a good mom, that's fine. That's not a bad belief, but it might be a belief that's serving your status, your value of yourself, your worth. It might not be fueling if you have a goal that you want to work full time or do something else. You can totally do both. And now I'm evidence of that. But like, it's serving an old belief of yours. It's proving that belief true. It's just not proving your goal true. And so it's important to do the work to figure out which is true and which is my story. What do I think is actual fact? Like no one could say the otherwise, right? And which is just my opinion. I've believed it so long and so repeatedly that it's just habit. It's now in my subconscious, programmed in with how to walk and how to talk and how to breathe. It's just in there, but it's not actually truth.
Which is so funny that you say that, because as a family, I think like Marcus and I have this whole, because we sort of have to, we, as entrepreneurs, we do it every single day. And like now we've sort of passed it on to Maddie. I think our family motto has actually become almost like this. We always say to her, we know it's hard, but we know you can do it. And so by kind of like making her see like, I can do it. Like, okay, they know I can do it. It cuts it. Like, I feel like it really, really just sort of like diminishes all of that. I'm like, listen, baby, I know it's really hard, but I know you can do it. And so she then sort of like is like, I totally can do this. So I think it's like so huge.
Kids are so like, I mean, I have a lot of like isms that I will say to Kevin, my partner, or to my kids. And I love when they like throw it back at you, you know, like I'll be saying something and I'll even say like, oh, like you made me be late for my Zoom call or something like that. And Garrett will be like, nobody can make you feel anything. It's your thoughts about it, mom, you know, and it's so fun because I'm like, you're right, baby. Nobody can make me do that. It was my interpretation.
Oh my God.
So like as long as you are aware of your language, as long as you're aware of what are your priorities and what are you showing your children and your partner and, you know, like, and that goes the other way, right? Like you can show all the good things and show the good example, but then like what happened with me and what I know a lot of people are suffering with right now is you're showing the bad example. It like you think that you don't have another choice, and so you act just habitually, and that's what is causing the problems, right? Because now what you're doing is you're kind of attracting this vibration, right? You're attracting people that expect you to be judgmental or expect you to be snippish, or they, you know, like it's this, I don't know, it's like a frequency that you're on that now you're kind of looking for the other shoe to drop. You're looking, who else is going to piss me off today? What else is going to happen? And that gets passed down. Your kids can start to do that too. And so this is why this fear reframing work that I'll teach you is really important, because it just gives you a space to make sure that you're not going limbic with your thought process, that you're staying in a prefrontal place. You're bringing that fuel through the questions you ask and the, you know, journaling and that kind of stuff that you can do. So just always be bringing fuel. And then, so I can go, there's some in the moment.
Okay. So let's okay, let's get to all the stuff. So what can we do about all of this? Okay.
So there's some in the moment stuff, because I know everyone's like, yeah, I love to journal and blah, blah, but like, what do I do? And I like, people are like yelling at me, or my kids are having a tantrum, or I'm late, or whatever it is. So there's an activity, and I don't even know the name of it, but I just got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you engage your senses. All right. So you think, what are 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste or say. I like to add the say. And so what you're doing is, let's say like you're freaking out over like a lost job, or something, like somebody sneezed on you in the grocery store, or, you know, like something COVID related here, right? In that moment, you're going to get all in the back of your head. Your subconscious is going to be like, holy shit, what do we do? This isn't right. You're going to get judgy. So you can bring in your senses to stay prefrontal. So you actually downregulate your nervous system by focusing on what you know is true, what you know you can count on in this moment. So you can be like, I see that like I have really pretty nail polish on my fingers. I see the sun is shining. I see my best friend over there, or my partner, who, you know, like you basically just assess your world from the standpoint of your senses. And that's not going to lie. That's not opinion, right? You're literally stating sight, smell, taste, touch, all of that. And as trivial as it seems, it's actually helping that seesaw stay regular, right? It's helping you get away from the but mindset into the, okay, don't worry about that. This is what I know. This is what I can see. This is what I can feel. Like some people,
this is where we are right now.
Right now, like right now, I can feel my heartbeat. Right now, I can feel the breath going down my chest. You know, right now, I can smell the bread in the grocery store, or wherever, you know what I mean? Like it's, you just start to really pay attention to what's true and real in front of you. And that doesn't do it all, but it definitely takes you off the edge. It distracts your limbic brain enough so that you can regulate your nervous system, and then your body can do what it does best, which is regulate. But sometimes your brain has to kind of help it along. So that's one. I wrote down a few. Okay. Second one is, and I know you're a big fan of this, is it true?
This is my favorite.
You literally just have to ask yourself, is what I'm afraid of true? is it just a potential? Is it a hypothetical? Are there other things that could happen? My favorite is it true now, but it doesn't have to stay true? Or was it true before and it doesn't have to be true now?
Mm-hmm. That is probably the biggest one for me. Is I always think like, because I always, I love, is it true? And so, but I always go back to, because I feel like 9 times out of 10, it's those past stories. It's those past things that were true for my parents, were true for my, whatever, like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this isn't my story. This is not my story.
Right. It's like when you say like, oh, stuff like that never happens to people like me. Right? Like if like somebody like did really well or like got a book deal or has like a lot of Instagram followers or lost a lot of weight or, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't happen to me. Like I can, like that is such a thing that feels so true, right? You think it's true. But if you actually ask yourself, is that true? Or is that just an opinion? Is that just something that I have chosen to believe based on the past? But actually somebody could totally argue against it, and so you have to have those conversations.
Which is so funny because I truly feel that, I mean, I think that there's so much, not like in terms of, I don't want to get all woo-woo on the call, but like I truly feel that those beliefs then manifest into your life. Because like I remember for my entire life, I literally had this story of, because of my dad, I literally had this story of, I don't win anything. Like I was like, I don't win anything. Like I never like whatever. And then I remember it was about 2 or 3 years ago where I was like, where did that even come from? And it was all those years that my dad bought lottery tickets and never won. And so I was like, wait a minute, is this true? Like, do I not win anything? Like, you know what I mean? And so I literally changed how I thought about it. And I was like, no, I can totally win anything that I want. And Deb, literally 6 months later, I won a car. Like, I am not even kidding you. And so now whenever there's like a competition or anything, like, you know what I mean? Anything that happens, Marcus always laughs because I was like, I'm going to win. Like, it's just because that's now I've sort of I've reprogrammed my brain to literally be like, no, I win all the time. I win everything. Like,
no, and this is amazing because, and this was like, this could be a total different topic, but because you prefaced it, but I don't want to be woo-woo, I have to say something. It is woo-woo when you think about the like high level, I changed my mindset and shit started to happen, right? Mm-hmm. But it works because of science. It works because of something called the reticular activating system in your brain. And it's literally a nerve cluster, like at the base, like right back here at the base of your, the spinal cord. And it's this crazy thing. It acts like a bouncer for your brain. And so you remember how I was saying you have these like 2,000 bits that your brain can assess out of that 400 billion? Well, your reticular activating system is kind of like the bouncer deciding what's relevant, what gets in, what counts, right? So when you had that narrative of I don't win, winning opportunities were outside of your consciousness. The reticular activating system wasn't letting them in, like it wasn't flagging them as relevant. But the second you changed your mind about it, now your brain knew I get to look for proof of that now. And then the reticular activation system saw those and paid attention to them. And now it was like hearing Lindsay in a crowded room. And so it's like so cool because manifestation works because of the neuroscience in your brain. It's not woo-woo. You know what I mean? It's like woo-woo works. But if you can understand that it works because your brain has this capacity to understand frequencies and understand what you tell it is important, and that's what it will look for, crazy cool. And so
cool. Okay, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Okay, keep going.
So in the moment, you can do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can do is it true? And then as always, you can do breath work. And that doesn't have to be complicated, but your breath signals your nervous system big time. So normally your brain, when it goes limbic, is going to send a signal to your heart to start pumping, right? To like get the endorphins going. But you can say, nope, we're not going to do that. And the only thing you have to do is just make sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale.
Okay,
and
why is that important?
So that elicits the relaxation response in your brain. So when, and like on a little bit deeper level, when you inhale versus when you exhale, your heart rate it's an irregular beat, and it actually beats further apart on your exhale than on your inhale. And so if you can make your exhale longer, then you're going to have more slowed down beats per breath, which helps you relax. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So always like you would do like maybe a count of like 4 and then a count of 6, you know, like doesn't have to be crazy. When you're stressed out, it's really hard to breathe out for more than 6 counts, but it's just the ratio. You just want to have that exhale be longer. It's also hard to be stressed when you're breathing out. It's a release. It feels good. It feels surrendering. It's not constrictive like the breath in. The breath in is tight. But if you release, that's another kind of somatic signal to your body to chill out, and that it's okay to chill out.
That is so amazing. Oh my God, I love it. I think too, for me, it's really important because I find that when I do get stressed out, I feel like my whole body becomes like constricted. So even my breathing is really in my chest. And most of the time I try to focus it in my belly. Like I find that my belly breathing is like so much deeper and like restorative. Whereas like, so that's the other thing too, is like I find whenever I get stressed, I'm like, okay, get that belly, get that belly kind of thing. Cause it just, it has such an ability to bring me from like 0 to 100.
Yes. And it's very visceral, you know, like if you're somebody that like, you know, like when you're having a panic attack and they tell you to blow into a bag, it's because you can see the bag filling up and crunching in and filling up, and you know breath is happening. It's very visual. So when you do belly breathing, you can see your stomach opening, you can see your chest expand. That's just really, it's a visual cue to your body and to your brain that you're breathing, you're alive, you're safe. I always try to like think about like I'm not hungry, I'm dry, I'm safe, I'm warm. Like what are all the things that are really true that we totally take for granted because they're in that efficient part of our brain that just knows it, right? And doesn't really give it credit. So the breath allows you to kind of create some space from your fear, from that kind of fight, flight, freeze reaction. And listen, your nervous system has it has a lot, but it has 2 main strands, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And they send signals to the exact same parts of your body, your organs, your tissues, your muscles, but one is sending it in the like, go, 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 activate. And then the other is saying rest, chill out, relax, you know? And so just, we need to make sure that since we're subconsciously sending signals that say, go, 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 that we consciously counter that with the signals that say rest, you're okay. It's perceived. And here's the thing, and this is why the next phase is going to be really cool. Your brain does not know the difference between perceived threat and actual threat. All right.
Oh my God. Okay, let's dive into this. I'm so excited.
How are we on time? I don't have a clock.
Oh, we're good. We're good. Keep going. Keep going.
So think the easiest way I can explain this is like, think of an athlete, right? Who, like an Olympic athlete who does visualization, and they put the like, you know, the little nodes like on their brain. And they've done studies where when an athlete actually visualizes their race, the brain signals the muscles and the tissues and the heart in the same way, not obviously the same intensity, but in the same way as it would in the actual race. And there's studies that prove that just thinking about the event, just going through the mental motions, has the same effect on the body as physically running or physically whatever the event is. And so it operates the same way. The brain does not know the difference between an actual like threat of your life and then you just feeling afraid. You know, it's like if you're afraid of that spider, it's the feeling of fear, not like it's actually going to kill you, or, you know, but your brain doesn't know the difference. And so it's so cool, because if we know that, then we can actually do things like visualization, like what if prompts, like different journal entries. We can do, meditation that takes our brain through the opposite thought processes. And then we can normalize that so that we don't actually fear the same things anymore, and so that we don't interpret them the same way. And so
it's so funny that you say that about the sports too, because I can't remember where it was, if I watched it or if I read it, but they did a whole, I think it was in the NBA, where they took like NBA players, and then they took a group of them, and then I think 10 of them shot hoops like 10 minutes, and then the other 10 thought about sinking dunks for like 10 minutes, and then they put them together, and the group that ended up just thinking about it did even better than the group that actually shot the shots, like comparatively. And you're like, it's incredible the power that your thought process, it kills me.
It's crazy. And you know what? It's a really good thing that our fear is so efficient and all that. Like, that's what helps you not, jump out of a moving car or jump off like the top of a building. Like, we need our limbic brain to do its job. We definitely need to be safe and protective and not do stupid stuff, but we're using this perceived threat hugely inappropriately. It's like our limbic fight, flight, freeze response comes when our kid has a tantrum. It comes when we're sitting in traffic. It comes when our email autocorrects us incorrectly. It's like the most minute things get the same response that truly being in danger would get. And it's all evolutionary, and it's all comes from the fact that, when we were like cavemen, all we needed was a limbic brain. We didn't have a prefrontal cortex. There was no 100 years to look down the road to. We didn't have to financial plan and family plan, like, I'm serious though, we didn't have a need for this. So it's so much harder to do that. Do you know our prefrontal cortex does not even come into full like use until our mid-20s?
Which explains so much about my early development.
But that's why kids tantrum, guys. That's why this whole, like, I want what I want now, and I want it how I want it. And kids have no like flexibility. They have no ability to see in the future. Like, until you get older and older and older, your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. And so all you have is a limbic brain. And so as parents, we cue for years, right? We're just constantly teaching to help that prefrontal cortex get stronger and stronger and stronger. But it's not until I think it's 22, 23 years old that it really is in full effect, which is scary because you can do a lot before that age.
Oh my God, you can do well, even now, if you think about it, I mean, like, I don't want to get too much into like politics or anything, but like, a lot of political leaders tend to capitalize on fear. And then they use it as a vehicle so that you're not thinking clearly. Like, you're just operating on, okay, this is going to happen, so I have to do like X, Y, and Z. Like, no matter where we are, that's like, in a lot of places in the world that's going on right now. And so I think like being conscious of that and being like, I just have to go back. Like, is this real? Like, is this like,
right? Yeah. And that's what, so like, I have a printout and I can give it to you to email people, but it's just called like fear reframing. And I literally go through and I give examples of like fears that I think are kind of like that, like, what if I fail, like all the kind of standard fears. And then I write out, well, what else could happen? What's the like freedom on the other side of that fear, and like with failure, it's like, what if I learn? What if I get to practice? What if I grow? What if I inspire others, even if I don't get the result that I was looking for? Like, there's so many other what ifs, and it's like training yourself to think about what's another interpretation. Let's just like keep our creativity open. You don't have to believe it right away. You just have to be like open to entertain the possibility. Just entertain the possibility that failure is one option. And then there's 10 other options where that was, right? Because remember, you have that 4 to 1. The failure is going to be in your brain 4 times stronger. So it's really helpful to consciously think about the other side of it, because we have to use our 15% like fiercely. And so we have to kind of force some of this what if thinking. And the idea behind it is if you can really kind of go step by step. And I always say, okay, what if you fail? What is the worst thing that would happen?
Like, I love that so much.
Let's own that, because the only reason it's scary is because we're still limbic about it. We haven't thought it through. We don't have a plan. We don't have proof. We don't know how people are going to respond. It's the unknown that's freaky. And so if you can actually just sit there and entertain it and be like, okay, what if I fail? Like, we got the freedom stuff, but like, what if I actually fail? What if that actually happens? And then you start to uncover, oh gosh, it's maybe not even the failure, it's my thoughts about it, right? It's what is that? What does that say about me? And I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. That's really what I'm afraid of, not the failing, because I'll actually be proud if I actually do it. But like, it's the perception of other people, or it's the wasted time, or, you know.
And I think that this exercise is so, Deb, it is so priceless. This is literally, I remember when Marcus, like when COVID hit, we do this all the time. So I'm like, what is our worst, like what is worst case scenario, the thing that's going to happen right now? And we always know that even worst case scenario, like we're good, like we're okay. Like, it's like, you know, could it be like, are we going to lose the house? Are we like, whatever? And we're like, that's never going to happen. Like, that's just like, you know what I mean? Like,
but
for whatever.
You have to process it, because when you don't process it, it stays this potential thing that's
this huge thing.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit of doing that too is that once you then tap into that, and then you have the ability to be like, okay, this isn't possible. It also then opens, I mean, you'll know this better because you're the brain woman. But like, I feel like once I then become like unafraid of that, then this whole other space in my brain opens up where I'm like, okay, what's possible? Because I can tell you, like, for us in this period, because we haven't been letting our fears take over, we have freed up so many resources, so much time, like so many things. Like we were just just saying the other day, we were like, this has been such a beautiful, and I know that so many people, like we've struggled financially, like, you know, but like within all of it, we're just like, look at all of these other incredible things that have happened because we've been open to them, because we haven't been, like you said in the beginning, like we're not stuck in the fear.
Right. It's not that it's not true for you. It's just not the only way to think. It's you can be afraid and still look at the other ways to interpret. You know, like, I'm not a sunshine and rainbows person. I just choose not to make decisions from fear. I choose to say, hey, I'm feeling this. It doesn't feel good. It feels real. All right, let's process it. And like, when you let yourself go down that rabbit hole of all the things that could happen or all the things that you're afraid of, you start to become a lot more self-aware of what it actually is, because it's never what it really like starts out as, right? It's always, like you say, like on page 2 or 3 of the journal, right? Like you always get to it once you start asking the questions. But more importantly, what you said is you open yourself up, because now your reticular activating system is opening up other things to become relevant to your brain, other than the proof of your initial assessment that you were screwed, right? And so you have to be able to kind of, it's like you want to make sure that your ego doesn't get to sabotage you, because you're familiarizing it. You're saying, all of this fear, I'm going to make it so known, so familiar, so practiced, that when it happens, if it happens, it won't be scary, because I've already visualized it. I've already tackled it. I've already gone through what my options are. I know what support system I can depend on. I know who I can call. I know what I can do. You know, like, oh, well, in that case, it's not so freaking scary anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we've actually taken the wind out of the fear by processing it, by saying it, you know?
And I think that, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it might have been, oh, I can't even remember. I have so I listened to so much, but I'm like, I feel like maybe it was Brene Brown that said too, he talks about the fact that we like to sit in fear because we believe that it's helping us prepare for it on some level, so that when if it like it's like we like to anticipate, we live in the doom or gloom, because then it's like, well, if it happens, then I'm prepared. But it's such a false belief,
Yeah.
because it's like, you can't protect yourself from this stuff if it happens, so you might as well prepare for it.
Right. And then you also have to ask yourself, do I want to be someone who this happens to, or do I want to be someone who's willing to have another experience, right? Who's willing to feel another way? Because we get so rooted and entitled in our depression, right? In our victimhood. And I know that might piss some people off, but like I lived that way.
I did too.
I literally was like, my husband's never around. I've got 2 young kids. I never have time for myself. La, 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 la. Totally true, right? Like, my husband worked all the time. I had 2 kids. Those were facts. But I was so rooted in my ability to like play off of that any opportunity that came to me that would make it so that I had a support system or that I wasn't that way, I sabotaged, because I then wouldn't get to be that girl, right? I'd actually have to have free time, and I'd have to be, productive, and I'd have to have self-worth, and I didn't know how to do that. And so it's like, we want all these things, but we also have to be willing to be the person that can embody that. And if you have goals, you got to embody being a little afraid, right? You got to embody being willing to take risks. You got to like, oh, this is good. So I was listening to a podcast, and this woman basically said, like, there are millionaires that like were half a millionaires, right? And they had to let go of being the kind of person who earned 500K a year to become someone that earned $1 million a year. How can you imagine like letting go of, I don't need to make 500K? Like, that kind of person isn't enough to earn this. Like, you have to have a different mindset. You have to have a different priority scale. You have to have a different like mental framework in order to double your income. And so it's like, she's like, let go of being a $500,000 a year earner to become a millionaire.
It's like you said earlier, like, you literally have to be willing to kill this version of yourself, and so that the new version can be born.
Yeah. And that's all fear is. Fear is just a sign that you are out of your comfort zone and on to something else. And you know what? Sometimes it's the wrong something, but maybe the goal wasn't to achieve it. The goal was to start becoming the person you're meant to be, right? It's the process. It is the journey, is like, cheesy as that sounds. Like, I've failed so many times in my life, but I love it, because that just means that I'm getting practice, and that I'm learning about myself, and that I'm helping others along the way. I'm learning what not to do. I'm learning what not to prioritize. Like, it's all lessons. And if you can embrace that and not fear the failure, or fear the loneliness, or feel the weight loss. Sometimes people are afraid of being the person that doesn't need to lose anymore, because they've been so self-identified as someone who loses. They now don't have the capacity to just be someone who lost the weight. It's like they're scared they're going to put it back on again. So fear is a given, guys. It's like, fear is always there, but you have to reframe it. You have to process it. You have to get to know what the worst is. And then you have to rewrite those narratives and practice them in visualization, and practice them in journal prompts, and make it a part of your everyday life. I literally like have a planner, and I have a list of affirmations that I write that are all in relation to some kind of unconscious or subconscious trigger that I've had and kind of figured out. And that helps me tremendously, because if given my own brain, I'm going to go to the subconscious every time. So I have to like force the conscious thought to rewrite those narratives.
Damn it, girl, you are brilliant. I'm just gonna
I just like to learn. You know
I
what?
just like every single time we talk, I'm like,
But I was a really insecure kid. I was a really shy kid. I had a ton of limiting beliefs. And I've just I'd say in the last like 3 or 4 years, just totally I just took ownership over it finally. And I realized there's all of these tools, there's all of these things, and you don't need a degree to get them, right? Like you can learn this stuff. And there's so much support out there. And as soon as I realized I had control of it, I didn't have to depend on my mom to change, or my best friend to change, or my partner to change, or for my money situation to change. I had to do that. You want your life to change, you need to change the way you look at your life. And that's kind of what all of this is rooted in. It's our interpretation and how we choose to own it or not.
amazing. Okay, so it's 3, so we kind of hit the hour mark. So is there anything else? I know that you have so much goodness in your brain. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you wanted to cover, that you wanted to touch upon?
I mean, as far as fear goes, that's the big chunk. Yes.
Okay.
So crazy. But yeah, I can like put in notes some of these, like, because I gave 3 things for in the moment, and then we kind of talked about the fear worksheet for proactive, and then visualization, meditation, and journaling, and using your time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, using your time to get, like, just think, I need to fuel my prefrontal cortex, just like you need to fuel your body with carbs and protein and fat. You need to fuel your brain with conscious, purposeful, intentional thought. And
so, can I pick your brain then about, so like in terms of the visualization and the journaling, or even the meditation, like if somebody is new to, like, what would be a really, like, what's easy, tangible things that they can just like jump in and start with?
Okay, so there's a lot of journals out there. So if you like look up, like, there's something called the 5-minute journal, and that has some prompts in it. I think anything that's not a blank sheet of paper sometimes for a beginner is really good. I have a what if workbook. It's 10 days where you do 1 writing prompt a day. I can put a link to that in the notes.
Oh my God, look, you.
It's just, this one isn't so like healing in terms of like getting really rooted, but it's just an idea of thinking new things. It's like, it's a what if I got to like travel to 5 new places, and money and time wasn't an issue. And you get to journal on where you go and what you do, and it's like stuff that you wouldn't normally write about. And I'm trying to like get your brain to think in new ways, to fuel that PFC, to get the creative juices flowing, to get you thinking, what if? I don't have to actually do it, but what if I could? And like really helping your brain go there. I also, Insight Timer, I'm on Insight Timer, but guys, you don't have to go see me. There are 40,000 tracks of free meditations on that app. It's such a beautiful place. You can like hashtag anything. You can search any topic, any style of meditation. You can do anything from just beautiful music to just sit by yourself for 5 or 10 minutes to any kind of meditation you could want. I have a fear meditation that's visualization. So it's all guided imagery. So I can link to that too. I have a ton.
Okay, we'll connect afterwards so we can give all of these like reasons. We'll put them all together for everybody. Okay, and then so in terms of visual, okay, I love visual. I visualize every single morning. I've been doing it for years. I'm convinced it's how I've manifested Marcus, my house, all of it. So what would you say for visualization?
Like how to do it? Like
like what would you like, just tips to get started?
Yeah, I think so. I think that this might be cheating. I don't know. I do it in writing to start, because sometimes it's really hard to just like close your eyes and like literally visualize the topic that you're, if it's the body that you love, the relationship that you want, the career that you want. Sometimes you feel like it's too blank of a slate. And so I always start with writing, and I just imagine that I'm writing like from my future self. So that's like the easiest way, is put on your future self hat, write in the present tense, and write about everything that you want as if you already have it. That's like standard kind of visualization one-on-one. You're literally telling a story, almost like a movie reel of all the things. You can prompt it in the like, I'm so grateful for, you know, or I'm really excited that I have this, or I can't believe my relationship is so beautiful and trusting, you know. But it's all about, pick a topic that you want to manifest or that you want to envision and write about it as if it's 10 years later and you're writing a letter about how awesome your life is.
Which is like, I have to tell you, it is one of the very first exercises that we do in the Nidra system. And I literally swear by it, because I truly believe, again, it helps to start with the sort of retraining your brain.
Yes.
Like, as for so many women, we wake up in the morning and the very first thing we think of is like lack. Like, I didn't get enough sleep. I don't have enough time, like all those things. And so like with the exercise that we do in the nervous system, I'm like, wake up and immediately visualize like the woman that you want to be in 10 years. How do you want to feel when you roll over and kiss your partner? Like, well, how do you want to feel your body? What do you want to like feel when you stare in the mirror? Like, how do you want to feel when you move, when you play with your kids? Like, all of those things. Like, we go through the whole exercise, and it's something that I really, really promote women doing every single day, because then it's exactly what you said. It rewires the old brain. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a total, visualization is a brain primer. It's literally like warming your brain up to get used to feeling these things, so that when the opportunities present themselves, you're really accepting, you're really open to them, because you've practiced the thoughts. It's not this, wait, I don't know what that feels like, I'm going to straight arm that. No, you're like, oh, wait, yeah, we've already done that. We've been there. Totally cool. Okay. Like, your ego's like, I give it the 2 thumbs up. We've already talked about this, you know? And so, yeah, I think it's hugely important, and you can do it like writing a letter from your future self. You can do it in your head. Those are the 2 ways that I do it. But again, everybody's got to, I always say, meet yourself where you're at, whatever makes sense for you, you know. And sometimes it could be like, I write affirmations and then I read those affirmations. I try every day. I don't always get to it, but like, it's just like, that's a visualization, because when I read the affirmation, I'm thinking about, who do I have to be for that to be true, you know, and that is a visualization in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Which is nice, because you're not always going to wake up wanting to or feeling like that person.
No.
So it's like sort of reminding yourself of like exactly who that woman is, and like how you need to show up every day. It's just nice. It's a nice reminder for sure. Yeah. Okay. So we have so many, so you and I are going to connect after. We're going to figure out how we can share all of these amazing resources with everybody. So for everybody, because they're going to be addicted to you, for everybody who wants to find you, where can they find you?
Yes. Okay. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook every single day posting, and that's at Heart Centered You. And then I have a podcast, and that I have an episode all about this too, but I go on weekly, and it's the Find Your Freedom podcast. And honestly, I feel like that's probably the best way to kind of soak up this type of talk and this type of mindset management and self-care support and all of that. So I'd say the podcast and Instagram are really the best places.
I love the podcast. I think it's incredible. Oh my God, I love it.
It's been fun. I started in November, and I'm just like, it's very addicting, and I get to interview people, and I get to research new topics, and it really keeps me accountable and present for everybody, and I get excited about all the new science and it's the linking of the science and the spirituality that gets me all excited.
I know. Plus, it's so nice, I think, for me, because we have like little iHome pods all over the house. And so like, if I'm in the kitchen, like meal prepping or whatever, I love, like, we'll keep music on, but like now we also, because we're home all the time, like Marcus and I are huge podcast listeners, and we don't have that private time to listen to it. Now I always like even if it's just in the background, like I know I'm absorbing like some of it. So it's so great. It's so great.
I always say, just like meditation, like you can fall asleep and you're like at least the guided imagery, you're still getting it. You know, it's that subconscious is picking it up. But no, it's great. And then I do offer complimentary discovery calls for anyone that wants more. Like I do group coaching and I do private coaching. So I'm all over the place. Something for everyone.
Well, guys, you know where to find her. Again, Deb, honestly, every single time we connect, I just get so, because this is my jam. Like, I love this stuff.
In the same, like, yeah, I'm with you.
I love this stuff for sure. So thank you so much for joining us. It has been amazing. And guys, if you have any questions, you know, if you want to ask Deb if there's anything, you can post it under the video.
Yeah.
Deb's in the group. And then otherwise, me and Deb will connect after and we'll figure out how to get all of these amazing resources to you guys. So thank you, Deb, so much for joining us. It's been a
welcome.
Okay, bye.